If you could leave your kids with one piece of advice, what would it be? When I was 7 years old, my dad asked me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I didn't even hesitate. I told him I was going to be a teacher. And he gives me this big smile, and he says, "Like a school teacher?" And I went, "No, I'm going to be a teacher." And he gave me a polite, more confused look. And, this kind of look was, well, what could she know? And we carried on with the day. And I really cherish that story because at the time, we both had no idea how true that was going to be for both of us. He was an accountant, and I later started my career in advertising and branding. But we both gravitated to this path of personal development. And as a teacher and a father, his greatest lesson to me, his advice, was that life is choice, and you can always choose a positive outlook on life. And he lived it. Before he passed away from cancer, I would call him on the days of treatment and find out how the chemo went. And you could hear the smile coming through the phone. And he'd say, "Law, it was fantastic." And I knew he was having a tough time, but he still chose a positive attitude, and that was his legacy. From my early 20s, he exposed me to the wisdom of great teachers who knew how to create micro-wins. And a micro-win is about taking a goal and breaking it down into its smallest parts. Each win then creates this trajectory of positive reinforcement to achieve the next one until you achieve your goal. We attended their workshops and courses together, and these shaped me greatly, so much that I knew this was the path that I wanted to follow one day. I'd left with this feeling like I'd been given permission to dream big, and I wanted to help other people shift the way I did. However, there was a challenge, a huge gap between dreaming big and achieving my goal. So at that point in my career, I felt like I was in a job, but I wasn't creating any meaning. I don't know if you've ever felt like that. And I knew I needed to make a leap, but I had no idea where to start. And so began my journey of what I perceived to be self-improvement. So ironically, for someone who wanted to help other people shift, I came from a place of not enough. I didn't believe that the message I had to share was adequate. And so I started to hunt for the answers elsewhere. I read book after book with this intention of, okay, I'll fix myself, and then this one will make me better, and then I'll be ready to start putting my work out there. I was searching for permission in the wrong places. And it was all driven by fear. Fear of not being good enough, fear of not making an impact, fear of being judged, fear of being vulnerable. And I had the self-talk to match it. Really self-critical. You're not good enough. No one's going to want to listen to you. Other people's work is better than yours. And then I finally understood what Anne Lamott meant in her book, Bird by Bird. And she shares this beautiful quote where she says, "My mind is like a bad neighborhood, and I try not to go there alone." But then I remembered my dad's advice, that life is choice. And I chose to let go of perfection and to embrace self-acceptance. And once I made this decision to change the attitude towards myself, I realized I wasn't broken. I didn't need fixing. I had to trust myself and give myself permission to start. And so I went back to basics with the most advanced technology at my disposal, my notebook and a pen. And I journaled. And the point of journaling, it's about trapping your thoughts on paper so you can get out of your own way. And it was my way to build a bridge back to myself, to give myself permission to dream and to start creating micro-wins. I told myself the story, well, you're a mother now, you're not allowed to dream. And consistently, every day I started to write. And it's really uncomfortable at first because there's nowhere to run. It's you, your thoughts, and the page. But I wrote down the things that I wanted to achieve that would excite me, those goals that just putting them down and creating that possibility, it gave me butterflies. And I remember what my dad said, it's fine to have butterflies as long as they fly in formation. And one of those goals that I wrote down was to have a business card that said speaker, trainer, author. And I reflected on that, and it made me think hard. And then I carried on journaling. And what I discovered was through my journaling is that I had the solution to creating micro wins all along. It was how I lived my life, but I hadn't consciously realized it. And I made the decision that I wouldn't let fear of failure paralyze me to inaction. And I'd like to share with you my 3-step formula to creating micro wins. It's all about your choice to act. And the first step I had already inherited from my dad, attitude, the choice to have a positive outlook on life. And it reminds me of my favorite quote by 13th century poet Rumi. And it captures this idea that life is an act. And he said, live life as if everything is rigged in your favor. And that's the attitude I chose to step into every day with. The universe has my back, as opposed to waiting for everything that could trip me up. Live life as if everything is rigged in your favor. But as powerful as a positive attitude can be, it's not enough to create a micro win. And then I discovered that I had the greatest tool to help me achieve my win in my handbag. Okay, no, it wasn't my red lipstick, but ladies, come on. We know the power we feel from a really good lip. It's like instant confidence. But maybe that's a different kind of a micro win for another talk. It was my calendar. And my superpower was the second step to act, consistency. Every day, I scheduled in time. I blocked that time for myself, and I protected that time like a warrior. And the key to my win was consistently showing up to that manuscript every day. It wasn't about the deadline, so it didn't matter how many lines or words that I had done in the allocated time. It was about the writing and showing up to my own ideas. And they didn't have to be good ideas. Each bad draft is a micro win to a good page. And sometimes my win for the whole day was one good sentence. But I celebrated that sentence because that propelled me to the next one. That's what micro wins do. They are the antidote to inaction. And the act of scheduling in itself is incredibly powerful because by choosing to schedule my writing, say from 9 to 11, I was consciously choosing to say no to something else. But there is a barrier to creating micro wins, and it's this. We are a culture of instant gratification junkies, and everything we want, it's a click away. And when it comes to developing a new habit or a new goal, we expect the same. I want to download my new body. I want to stream my learning curve, so I don't need to feel any discomfort of going through a new process. Be aware of it. And that brings me to the third step to act. It's the glue that holds it all together. It's that invisible ingredient that makes it happen. My 3-year-old daughter would call it magic unicorn glitter, but I call it trust. And trust is not a tangible resource. We have to follow it blindly in the dark and sometimes bump into a few walls. But when we can trust the process of creating wins, even when we don't physically see a result, but we still persevere, that's when the magic happens. Because eventually we see the progress of multiple micro wins day after day. It's our bodies getting stronger, it's the novel forming, our concentration getting better. We achieve our goal. And it's about trusting that process, but turning down the volume of that negative self-talk of the inner critic. That should be mental chatter that kept telling me, you should be further by now, you should have more clients, you should have more money in your bank account, you should have more bookings. I'm seriously trying to find a new neighborhood. But I trusted the process, and as the wins became more consistent, so did the rewards. That one good sentence became a blog post read by 25,000 people. That one good page ultimately became a co-published book. And just by creating wins and celebrating the wins, it gave me the confidence and the self-belief to keep showing up to myself, to trust myself, and to keep putting the work out there. But don't get me wrong. With the micro wins come the micro fails. It's part of the process. But for me, I see each fail. It's a stepping stone to get me closer to the win. It's another way to say, okay, that's another way how not to do that. But when a micro fail is micro enough, we can get over it. And what I learned was that just by consistently scheduling time every day and showing up to myself, I had already won the day. And that gave me this emotional bandwidth that I could cope with anything. It was this extra built-in layer of resilience. And micro wins can come from anywhere. And sometimes my win of getting up for gym at 6 and conquering that part of the day propelled me to action in my work. It's like this redistribution of wealth. They can come from anywhere. And they are the antidote to inaction. But it doesn't happen overnight. And it hasn't been easy. All I had was a blueprint of where I wanted to go. And my only currency of getting there was micro wins. And what started out as a journal entry has become my reality. And so, I'm not sure, Sam, I don't know, did you tell everyone when they booked tickets for this event, ladies and gents, you know there's a test? Don't worry. It's an open book test. And when you get home, I want you to journal about the things that excite you. But don't shrink to fit the safe narrative. Show up, dream big, and create the story of your greatness. Because this 3-step formula to act has seen me through some of my toughest challenges. It's not just about career development. It's a way to let go of what doesn't serve you, outgrow old patterns, and create the life you want. And now it's your turn to act, because micro wins are the antidote to inaction, to make your story a reality. Attitude, consistency, trust. Choose a positive attitude and live as if everything's rigged in your favor. Consistently schedule in time every day for yourself. Show up and take action. It's the difference between day one or one day. Trust the process and turn down the volume of that negative self-talk. Create the win, celebrate your win, and then press repeat. Because micro wins are the antidote to inaction, to create your someday life today. And why not today? So earlier this year, my 5-year-old son comes to me and he says, "Mommy, what do you do for work?" And I said, "Sweetie, Mommy's a teacher." And he gives me these big eyes and he says, "Do you teach children? Why don't you teach me?" And I said, "No, I'm a different kind of a teacher. I teach grown-ups." And now he's very confused. He says, "But grown-ups learned everything at school." And I said, "Well, I taught them the things they didn't learn at school." And this chat with my son made me reflect on that conversation I had with my father that 30 years ago. And it made me think, if I could leave my kids with one piece of advice, what would it be? And I would build on what my dad taught me, that life is choice, because that was my stepping stone to take it to the next level. And I would tell them that what you make of your life is dependent on whether or not you choose to show up and act. If you could leave your kids with one piece of advice, what would it be? Thank you.